The soft hum of the boutique's air conditioning mingled with the faint notes of instrumental jazz playing over hidden speakers as Denise Jackson stepped through the glass doors of Leclerc Fine Jewelers, her heels clicking confidently against the marble tile, her posture that of a woman who had carried both burdens and triumphs in her lifetime, though in this moment, dressed in a navy blouse, slacks, and carrying her old but reliable leather handbag, she looked no different than any other woman. Browsing the glittering displays, yet what separated her from the others was a wealth of experience, a mind sharpened by years of building her own global consulting firm from the ground up, and a quiet authority that radiated from her presence even when unspoken. She had not come here for herself, not today at least, but to buy a graduation gift for her niece, the first in their family to finish medical school, a young woman who had endured years of sleepless nights and financial hardship, and Denise wanted something elegant, lasting, something that spoke to both pride and legacy, perhaps a diamond pendant or a bracelet. But before she could even step fully toward the central glass counter where shimmering necklaces rested under bright white lights, a figure appeared in front of her like a barrier, a young store clerk, no older than 25, with platinum blonde hair twisted into a bun, lips curled into a permanent smirk, and eyes that scanned Denise up and down in a way that instantly betrayed judgment, not assessment, because this wasn't the gaze of someone trained to recognize customer needs, it was the gaze of someone who had already decided she didn't belong. "Excuse me," the clerk said, folding her arms across her chest with the false confidence of a gatekeeper who thought she was untouchable, "I don't think this section is for you." Denise blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly, her hand still on the strap of her bag, her brows slightly raised, and the clerk, misinterpreting her silence as hesitation, continued with a sharper edge in her voice, "These items are quite expensive. You might be more comfortable looking over there." She gestured toward a clearance section near the entrance, racks of outdated seasonal handbags and costume jewelry hanging limply under yellowed light, an area clearly meant as a dumping ground for things no one wanted, and Denise felt that old familiar sting, the sting of being sized up not by her words, not by her actions, not by her bank account, but by her skin, by her appearance, by assumptions rooted so deep they spilled casually from the mouths of strangers who thought themselves superior. She inhaled slowly, deeply, summoning the composure she had cultivated over years in boardrooms where she had been the only black woman at the table, forced to outthink, outwork, and outlast men who doubted her worth, but she had not built herself into the powerhouse she was by letting insults slide unchecked, and though there was a temptation to turn, to walk away, she felt something stirring in her chest, that resolute voice whispering that today was not the day to be silent. "Excuse me," she asked softly, her tone calm, her words deliberate, though her eyes burned with a restrained fire. The clerk leaned closer, her smirk widening as if she delighted in repeating her insult. "I said, this ain't for you. These are luxury items for serious customers. If you want to browse, you should do it in the clearance section before I have to call security for loitering." The words landed heavy in the air, drawing the attention of a couple nearby shoppers who froze in place, pretending to browse but unable to resist the unfolding tension, and Denise felt her stomach knot for a brief moment, not from shame but from the deep insult of being dismissed so casually, yet instead of shrinking, she straightened, standing taller, her silence deliberate, unnerving even, because she had long ago learned that nothing rattled arrogance more than unflinching composure. She reached into her handbag, pulling out a sleek silver case engraved with her initials, clicked it open, and drew a single business card, placing it neatly on the counter beside the rows of diamond necklaces the clerk had worked so hard to block her from reaching. The clerk glanced at the card, scoffed, and pushed it back toward Denise as though it were meaningless trash. "I don't need your card, ma'am," she said, her tone sharpening with each syllable. "I told you already, this isn't for you. Either make your way to the clearance section or please leave the store." Denise tilted her head slightly, studying the young woman the way one might study a petulant child, and in that moment, her decision crystallized. This was not going to be another memory she tucked away in silence, this was going to be a lesson, sharp and unforgettable. "Is your manager available?" she asked, her voice still calm, almost casual, though the weight beneath it was unmissable. The clerk rolled her eyes and sighed dramatically, muttering under her breath, "If you insist," before striding away with that same careless arrogance, leaving Denise standing quietly at the counter, her fingers lightly resting on the glass, her patience stretched but not broken, her silence that of a storm gathering strength. Within moments the manager appeared, a tall man in a tailored gray suit, his salt and pepper hair combed immaculately, a name tag reading Brian pinned neatly on his chest, and his smile was the kind of smile Denise had seen far too often, polished, insincere, a smile that masked disinterest, and as he approached he extended his hand in a gesture meant to appear courteous but somehow managed to feel dismissive. "Ma'am," he began smoothly, "I understand there's been some sort of issue?" His eyes flicked briefly toward the clerk, who now stood just behind him with her arms crossed, smirk firmly reattached as though certain her manager would back her. Denise slid the card across the counter again, not breaking eye contact with him this time. "There is indeed an issue," she said, her tone even, deliberate. "Your employee informed me that this store, these items, are not for me, and that if I didn't leave she would call security." Brian picked up the card reluctantly, his lips already parting to shape another polished dismissal, but then his eyes landed on the embossed letters, Denise Jackson, CEO, Jackson Global Consulting, and the transformation was immediate. His jaw slackened, his breath caught, and his pupils widened as recognition flickered, because though he had never met her in person, the name was not unknown. Her firm had consulted for Fortune 500 companies, had shaped mergers worth billions, and her name carried weight in circles far above his pay grade. His smirk faltered, his mask cracked, and suddenly the confidence that had carried him this far shriveled. "Ms. Jackson," he stammered, I assure you this is a misunderstanding, the only misunderstanding," Denise interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "is that your staff believes they have the right to decide who is worthy of shopping here. Tell me, Brian, is that the culture of this store? Is that how you train your people? To humiliate customers at the door?" Her words rang out clearly, slicing through the soft jazz, and customers paused in their tracks, some pretending to examine earrings while others unabashedly stared, the store now a stage and Denise the unshakable center. Brian swallowed hard, sweat beginning to bead at his temple as he turned to glance at the clerk, whose smugness faltered at last, her arms slowly uncrossing as her confidence melted into unease. I sincerely apologize," Brian said quickly, "that is absolutely not how we operate." "I'll handle this immediately." "No," Denise said firmly, raising a hand to cut him off. "You won't. Because an apology is not enough. Not this time." She reached into her bag once more, this time pulling out her phone, scrolling with practiced precision until she landed on a contact, and with a single tap she raised it to her ear. Brian and the clerk exchanged nervous glances as she spoke into the receiver, her voice calm but unmistakably lethal. "Sandra?" "Yes, it's Denise. I'm at your downtown flagship store right now, and I've just been told by one of your employees that this store isn't for me." On the other end of the line, the regional director's voice erupted loud enough through the speaker that even nearby shoppers could hear. "What?" Customers gasped audibly, the clerk flinched, and Brian froze as Denise extended the phone across the counter toward him, her gaze unblinking. "I'll let your manager explain," she said evenly. Hesitation clung to him like chains as he took the phone, stammering into the receiver, "Sandra, I can explain," but his words were drowned instantly by Sandra's fury. "Explain? You've got 30 seconds to explain why one of our most valued partners, the woman who saved this company millions in restructuring, is standing in my store telling me she was told she doesn't belong. 30 seconds, Brian, or you're done. Do you hear me? Done." The blood drained from his face, his mouth opening and closing like a drowning man gasping for air, while the clerk shrank further into the shadows, her hands trembling at her sides as the gravity of her arrogance finally settled. Customers exchanged glances, whispers rippled like wildfire, the once quiet boutique now thick with tension, and Denise, arms folded across her chest, watched silently as the manager's career collapsed in real time. Finally, after Sandra's tirade ended with a curt, "Hand the phone back to Denise," Brian did as instructed, his hand shaking. Denise pressed the phone to her ear, nodding once. Yes, Sandra. Thank you. I'll trust you to handle this appropriately.